Hey everyone, welcome to the E2 Effective Elders podcast. E2 is devoted to coaching your elder team to win by providing biblical and practical resources in authentic relationships. E2 wants nothing more than to equip you to move God's kingdom forward in the place you're serving Jesus. Visit us at e2elders.org and please share this good word with others.
Hey friends, I want to thank you for joining us in our podcast today, and our thanks to CDF Capital for their long-term partnership with E2. CDF Capital has invested in elders for years across the country and around the world, and for that we give thanks. We also give thanks to Brian Postin, lead elder, and Ryan Baker, lead minister at First Christian Church in Moweaqua, Illinois, longtime partners with E2. Brothers, thanks for taking time out to be with us today.
Yep, anytime.
Thank you.
Yep. Well, we appreciate you very much. We're grateful. And we're grateful that the two of you, as lead elder and lead minister, are going to share some insights with people who are listening and watching as to how you make the best of your relationship, how you keep investing in each other so that you could be like a Paul and a Silas on a mission trail trying to advance the kingdom of God. So, Brian, why don't you kick us off and share with us some of your insights, please?
Well, I think what has really allowed Ryan and I to work well together is that we first have a relationship with one another. We've invested in that relationship. For a period of time, we were in a small group together. Our families interacted through that. But we just valued each other as individuals first. To develop that relationship. And as a result of that, we have a deep trust factor. We never think there's a hidden agenda when we're working together. We may not always agree on things, but we're talking through those differences as opposed to assuming there's some agenda behind the scene or whatever. So that trust factor has just been huge for us.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, how about from your chair? What makes your friendship, your working relationship good?
Yeah, this is the third church I've served at. And with that, I think Brian's right on the foundational relationship. You know, our wives have a relationship with each other and our friends. My wife and I just kind of look up to Brian and Lee, feel like we've even received wisdom and mentoring from them to some level. But at the same time, we kind of live in a culture where people tell you all the time that they'll pray for you or they are praying for you. I think what's been really awesome is Brian's one of the few people that when he tells me that, I believe it. I know that Brian prays for me and I pray for him. And I think that relationship through our small group and then carrying that into the eldership now, we get together once a week for breakfast just to talk about how things are going. And, sometimes we'll spend the last part of that breakfast talking about an elder meeting agenda or something like that we're working through. But a lot of the time we just are kind of talking about life and how each other are doing. And I feel like that relationship is what, helps us lead together strong. So.
Great. And Brian, what are some of the things that you do then to foster this friendship, either as individuals or as couples? Are there some things that you do?
Well, I think Ryan just mentioned one of them. I think there was a time we both have a high work ethic, so we have a lot of things going. And so we realized at one point in time that was coming at the expense of the relationship. We were never carving out time to do it. So we became intentional about setting a time early in the day, breakfast. We were in and out before 7 a.m., and that was a time that was intentional to invest in that. But then, to be honest, COVID-19, it hit us there because the restaurants had to shut down. Our schedules were so tight that getting together and cooking breakfast for each other didn't happen, and it lagged through that period. But so we haven't been able to meet as consistent as we were, but we also realized then we got to figure out other ways to do that. But we know when we don't invest that time in the relationship, then And when we get together, for one, there can be too many things to talk about as opposed to really getting to the heart of the issue. So it's important that we be intentional about it. So we've found other slots to do it, but we just know if we're not meeting, a lot of things aren't getting said, and we're not getting to the heart of the matter that really lets us be effective in ministry.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like communication is pretty important between the two of you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
How often do you communicate in addition to these breakfasts now, especially too, as we're getting towards the other side of COVID and restaurants are opening and the two of you are getting together? Do you find yourselves on the phone throughout the week? Is it commonplace to look one another up, grab a cup of coffee, or why don't you talk a little bit about the communication that takes place between the two of you?
Yeah, I would just say probably at least once a week we're on the phone. Probably more than that though. Usually as things are going on around here and as we're, we might have a meeting coming up or different things like that. I think we just see the value in if we come into those meetings and we're on the same page already, it goes a long way for our elders in our communication with them and even with staff. As we do our training meetings and things, if we've had those opportunities to talk, then it does. So we've even, Brian farms some. And so this has happened a few times, like he's out at the farm or he's in a field or something. And he's like, hey, if you bring lunch out, I'll send you my pin for where I'm at. And then you just come to me and I'll bring lunch out and we'll talk. Or cool. I think we just, we try to make that a priority, whatever's going on. And usually we're able to, so.
And I would say he says maybe one day a week. I think it'd probably surprise him. It's probably 3 or 4 times a week, actually. Sometimes they're short conversations, and sometimes they're lengthy. I would say the lengthier ones maybe are one, but we have just different touch points. But we're both fairly busy with schedules and whatever, so it's hard to get sit-down time. But I think we both value the face-to-face. Where we would much prefer to talk where you can understand the body language and really get to, are we really at the heart of the issue, or is this, we just having a surface discussion? So
Sure. And Ryan, when you make mention that this is your third ministry, so it's obvious that you can see a difference between this ministry and the previous two. If you were sitting down for a cup of coffee with a young minister who's starting out in his first ministry, what would you advise him to do to foster the best friendship relationship that he could with his lead elder?
Yeah. And I would just say there's a lot of humility that's required at times. I think sometimes, and it was hard, but I think early in ministry for me, one of the things that was different was this is the first place I felt like I didn't work for the elders, but I worked with them. And that dynamic has helped, in another situation, there might be this attempt to try to prove yourself or feel like you want to be kind of on their level, but I just respect our elders. I just respect Brian. I kind of hold him up in a higher place as far as that goes. And so I've never felt like this competitiveness or this desire to feel like I have anything to prove, but really just, staying humble, asking questions and seeking advice and prayer. I think if you can position your relationship like that, I mean, you're going to get way more out of it.
Great.
I think one thing just to that, Yuri, I think it's important to have a close relationship, but in that relationship, there has to be accountability. You can't just allow a friend to do something that's not right, and that's the relationship we have with each other. Ryan would trust me to talk to him about something if he was veering off the wrong path, and I'm the same way. I would expect him to do the same thing if he felt I was overstepping the bounds. So I think we have to care enough for each other to hold each other accountable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So humility is important as we approach that friendship, as you made mention of, Ryan. Accountability, Brian, you make mention of that mutual checking in with one another and holding each other's feet to the fire. And all of that can be done in the context of authentic communication, frequent, often, face-to-face, in-person communication to develop that. That's all good. I want to thank you for those pieces of wisdom for our listeners, and perhaps somebody can be greatly encouraged to move into a healthier place with one another. And, when we get an elder chair and a senior minister, a lead minister working together, hitting on all 8 cylinders, that begins to spread throughout the rest of the staff and elder team, and it spreads into the church. And those healthier relationships makes for a healthier church, and healthy things grow. So we're grateful to you. Thank you so very much for taking time out of your day for this conversation. And thanks for the partnership. We're most grateful for First Church. You have invested well, not only in our ministry, but your investment in us enables us to touch the lives of others. And for that, we give thanks.
Thanks, Gary.
You bet.